All right, you beautiful degenerates, welcome back to The Deep Dive,
Oh, here we go.
where we get into some seriously fucked up shit.
Sounds promising.
Today, we're boldly going.
Boldly going. Really?
Hey, work with me here.
Okay.
We're boldly going where no podcast has gone before, straight into the heart of the goddamn Star Trek universe.
Jesus.
We're going full Joe Rogan on this.
Full Rogan. You sure you can handle that?
Hey, I can handle anything.
Famous last words.
Raw, unfiltered,
Should I be scared?
and definitely 18 plus only.
All right. It's more like it.
No safe spaces here, folks. Just a couple asshats shooting the shit about spaceships,
I resemble that remark.
aliens, and all the weird-ass stuff Star Trek has thrown at us over the years.
Over 50 years, to be precise.
Yeah, whatever.
And to keep it real, we're sticking to the holy grail of knowledge. Wikipedia's Star Trek page.
No fancy pants books or documentaries.
Just pure, unadulterated Wikipedia wisdom.
Because let's be honest, who the hell has time to read all that shit?
Not us, that's for sure.
It's exactly.
Cheers to that.
So grab your drinks, light up whatever the hell you light up, and get ready to have your minds blown.
Don't tempt me.
Now let's talk Star Trek.
Finally!
This shit's been around since before we were wiping our asses.
Way before.
So where the hell did it all begin?
Well, it all started with this visionary motherfucker named Gene Roddenberry back in the 60s.
That hippie.
Hey, the dude was a genius.
Okay, so what did he do?
This dude had this wild-ass idea for a sci-fi show about a spaceship crew exploring the galaxy.
Sounds pretty standard for sci-fi.
But he was also a sneaky bastard.
Oh, I like him already.
He knew that if he pitched it as some intellectual, social commentary bullshit, those network execs would laugh their asses off.
So how did he pull it off?
He played the game, man. He pitched it as Wagon Train to the Stars.
Wagon Train.
Yeah.
Like those old Western shows.
Exactly. Like some Wild West shit in space.
Sneaky bastard.
But under the surface, he was weaving in all these subversive themes about racism, war, and politics.
Wait, so he was like a woke warrior in disguise.
You could say that.
Damn, that's some next level shit.
He was basically smuggling brain food disguised as a goddamn space adventure.
That's some slick maneuvering.
The man was a visionary.
Did those dipshits at the network even catch on?
Not first.
Idiots.
They actually rejected the first pilot episode, The Cage.
Are you serious?
Can you believe those morons?
They sound like a bunch of asshats.
They had a gold mine in their hands and they tossed it in the trash.
So how the hell did Star Trek even make it to air?
Well, thank God for Lucille Ball.
Lucy. As in, I love Lucy. Lucy.
The one and only.
What the hell?
Apparently, she saw something in Roddenberry's vision and used her clout to push for a second pilot.
Hold up, Lucy. The queen of sitcoms was a Trekkie.
Yeah, it's a weird-ass twist in the Star Trek saga.
You're blowing my mind here.
Anyway, the second pilot, where no man has gone before, got the green light and Star Trek was born.
A fight.
But the struggle was far from over.
Oh, come on. What now?
We're talking about the 60s, man.
The era of peace and love?
Not always.
What do you mean?
A time when showing a diverse cast boldly going where no man had gone before was pretty damn radical.
Oh, right. Forgot about that.
They were pushing boundaries.
So they pissed off some folks.
You bet your ass they did.
Good.
The show tackled controversial issues.
Give me some examples.
Racism, sexism, war.
Sounds pretty woke for the 60s.
And it challenged social norms.
So they were ahead of their time.
Definitely.
Did they get canceled?
Almost.
Ratings fluctuated? And NBC almost pulled the plug after the second season?
Classic network bullshit.
Always messing with something good.
So how did they survive?
The fans, the OG Trekkies, they weren't having any of it.
Power to the people, man.
They launched this massive letter-writing campaign.
Seriously. Like with actual letter.
Old school style.
Dedicated fans.
They flooded NBC with pleas to keep the show alive.
And it worked.
It did.
That's awesome.
NBC caved and renewed the show for a third season.
And actually listen to the fans.
They had no choice, so they lived to fight another day.
But like the dicks they were.
Oh no, what did they do?
They shoved it into a crappy Friday night time slot.
The Friday night death slot.
Exactly.
Classic sabotage.
And slashed the budget.
Cheap bastards.
Yeah.
So they basically sabotaged the show.
Pretty much.
What a bunch of assholes.
It was a miracle it survived that third season.
So that was it. The end of Star Trek.
For the original series, yes.
3 seasons and out. What a goddamn shame.
But alas, Star Trek's original run came to an end.
But wait a minute, what about all those other Star Trek shows I've heard about?
Oh, you sweet summer child.
What do you mean?
You've only seen the tip of the goddamn iceberg.
There's more.
So much more.
Like what?
Star Trek is a sprawling, multi-headed hydra of a franchise.
Jesus. How many shows are we talking about here?
Let's see. We've got the animated series.
A cartoon?
Yeah, with the original crew.
Interesting.
Then there's The Next Generation.
That's the one with Picard, right?
The one and only.
I've heard good things about that one.
It's a classic.
Okay, what else?
Deep Space Nine.
Never seen it.
It's a bit darker.
Dark?
How dark?
Lots of war and political intrigue.
Not sure about that.
Then there's Voyager.
That's the one with the female captain, right?
Yep, Captain Janeway.
I heard she's a badass.
She is.
All right, I'm intrigued.
And then we have Enterprise.
That's the prequel, right?
Exactly, set before the original series.
So like the early days of Starfleet?
Yep, the birth of the Federation.
I might have to check that one out.
And that's just the classic shows.
There's more.
Buckle up, buddy, because we haven't even touched the new fleet of shows on streaming.
Hold on, we're not done yet.
Not even close.
Give me the rundown.
Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, and Strange New Worlds.
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of Star
It's
Trek.
a goddamn buffet of sci-fi goodness.
How many episodes are we talking about here?
Over 935 episodes spread across 49 seasons of television.
Holy shit. 49 seasons.
And that's just the TV shows.
You're kidding, right? We haven't even touched the movies yet.
Oh, hell yeah, the movies.
Get ready for another mind-blowing ride.
I'm gonna need another drink for this.
I hear ya.
Kirk and Spock kicking ass on the big screen. Gotta love it.
13 films, to be exact.
13.
Seriously. From the original crew to the Next Generation era, and even J.J. Abrams' reboot with the Kelvin timeline.
Hold up. The Kelvin timeline.
Yeah, it's a whole alternate universe thing.
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Some alternate universe bullshit.
Exactly.
So like parallel dimensions and all that.
You got it.
It's like Star Trek meets Back to the Future.
A perfect description.
My head's spinning.
Abrams wanted to shake things up, so he created this whole new timeline, starting with the 2009 Star Trek movie.
So it's like a fresh start.
You could say that.
But doesn't that screw up the whole Star Trek continuity?
That's the beauty of it. It exists separately from the main timeline.
Clever bastards.
It gave him the freedom to explore different versions of the characters and storylines without messing with the established canon.
So it's like a playground for Star Trek fans.
You could say that.
I like it.
It's a way to keep the franchise fresh and exciting.
So we've got TV shows, movies, and... Wait. I've also heard there's a mountain of Star Trek merchandise out there.
Dude, you have no idea.
Like what?
Books, comics, video games, magazines.
Seriously. They made Star Trek toilet paper.
Pretty much anything you can imagine.
That's insane.
They even have a Klingon opera, for Christ's sake.
A Klingon opera.
Yeah, it's a thing.
That's got to be the most fucked up thing I've ever heard.
It gets weirder.
How is that even possible?
They've got Klingon dictionaries, Star Trek cookbooks, even Star Trek pet costumes.
Hold on. Pet costumes.
It's a full-blown lifestyle choice, my friend.
It's an empire, man. A multi-billion-dollar empire built on a geeky sci-fi show.
And it keeps growing.
Who would have thought?
But here's the thing.
What's that?
Star Trek is more than just a money-making machine.
Oh, come on. You're going to get all sentimental on me now.
Hear me out.
All right, fine. Go ahead.
It's actually had a real impact on our culture, technology, and even science.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm serious.
How's a TV show going to influence science?
Think about it. Trekkies are some of the most passionate fans out there.
Oh, hey, that's true. They're pretty hardcore.
They build their own starships, invent their own Star Trek languages, and organize these massive conventions.
Yeah, those conventions are insane.
And it goes beyond fandom.
How so?
Remember those flip phones from back in the day?
Yeah, what about them?
They were inspired by Star Trek's communicators.
No shit.
And Google Earth.
The thing that lets you spy on your neighbors.
That too. But think about the mapping feature.
What about it?
The tricorder's mapping capability was a direct influence.
Wait, seriously?
And don't even get me started on the X Prize Foundation.
What's that?
They offered millions of dollars to anyone who could build a real-life medical tricorder.
Like the one Bones McCoy used on the show.
Exactly.
No shit. So Star Trek actually helped invent the future. That's wild.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
There's more.
Let's not forget the social impact.
Social impact. You're going to get all political on me.
Not at all, but think about the context.
All right, fine. Go ahead.
In the 1960s, Star Trek was one of the first shows to feature a truly diverse cast.
You mean like a black guy and an Asian guy on the bridge?
Exactly.
I guess that was pretty radical back then.
They had a black female communications officer.
Uhura, right?
Yep. A Japanese helmsman.
Toodaloo.
And a Russian navigator, all working together on a spaceship.
Yeah, back then that must have really pissed off a lot of people.
It did.
Oh,
But it also helped pave the way for more diversity and representation on television and in society.
so Star Trek was woke before woke was a thing.
Exactly.
Damn, they were ahead of their time.
And let's not forget the iconic Kirk-Uhura kiss.
The first interracial kiss on TV.
One of the first.
Yeah, that was a big deal back then.
It broke barriers.
It probably pissed off a lot of people, too.
It did. Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura, even worked with NASA to recruit more women and minorities into the space program.
Seriously, that's awesome.
She was inspired by her role on Star Trek to make a real-world difference.
Damn, that's some powerful shit.
And get this, in 2020, the U.S. government's COVID-19 vaccine development program was called Operation Warp Speed.
Wait, seriously,
I kid you not.
they named a government program after Star Trek.
It's a direct reference to Star Trek's faster-than-light travel.
No way. I never knew that.
See? Star Trek's influence is everywhere.
I'm starting to see why you're such a goddamn Trekkie.
It's more than just a TV show, man. It's a phenomenon.
All right, before we wrap up part one, I gotta ask, what about the haters?
The haters.
Yeah, the people who think Star Trek is for nerds.
Oh, those guys.
Don't tell me everyone's drinking the Star Trek Kool-Aid.
Of course not.
So what kind of Star Trek parodies are we talking about?
Oh, man, where do I even begin?
Give me the highlights.
Saturday Night Live has been roosting Star Trek since the 70s.
I can only imagine.
John Belushi as Kirk, Chevy Chase as Spock. Comedic gold, my friend.
Sounds hilarious.
And then there's Galaxy Quest.
This movie with Tim Allen.
The one and only.
What's so funny about that?
It's basically Star Trek meets Spinal Tap.
Sounds like my kind of humor.
And we can't forget about The Simpsons and Futurama.
Those shows make fun of everything.
They're full of Star Trek references and parodies.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Even Black Mirror got in on the action with USS Callister.
That episode was pretty messed up.
They're even making a sequel to that episode.
A sequel to a Black Mirror episode. That's a first.
It's a testament to the enduring legacy of Star Trek.
Anything else, or are we done roasting the Trekkies?
Oh, we're just getting started. You ever hear about the IRS Star Trek training video controversy?
The IRS? What the hell does the IRS have to do with Star Trek?
Well, it involves a really bad training video.
Okay, tell me more.
Apparently, back in 2010, those brilliant minds at the IRS decided to make a Star Trek training video.
Sounds about right.
It was supposed to be about tax audits.
Riveting stuff.
But they decided to spice things up a bit
How so?
by dressing up IRS employees as Star Trek characters.
Seriously, they thought that was a good idea.
You were clearly delusional.
So what happened?
Well, when it leaked a few years later, people were not amused.
I bet they weren't.
IRS employees dressed up as Star Trek characters talking about tax audits.
So cringeworthy.
It was a PR disaster.
Classic government bullshit.
Wasting taxpayer money on a Star Trek fan film.
I can't believe they thought they could get away with that.
But you gotta admit, it's kind of funny in a messed up way.
All right, yeah, I'll give you that.
Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here.
A lot of ground indeed.
From the origins of the show to all the crazy spin-offs and merchandise.
And the weird-ass IRS training video?
Star Trek is clearly a force to be reckoned with.
It's a cultural juggernaut.
I'm starting to understand the hype.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
We'll dive deeper into that weird-ass universe in part 2. For now, let's take a break, refill our drinks, and get ready for more mind-blowing Star Trek madness.
Don't mind if I do.
I'm sure you don't.
All right, you beautiful bastards. Let's jump back into this Star Trek shitstorm. Last time we were talking about the franchise's crazy-ass impact on pop culture and technology.
Right.
But there's so much more to unpack.
Yeah, 49 seasons of TV and 13 movies is a lot of goddamn content to dissect.
Exactly. So let's dive into some of the specific shows and eras. We've got the original Star Trek with Kirk, Spock, and Bones. Then there's the Next Generation with Picard and his crew. And we can't forget about Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and all those newer shows on streaming.
Okay.
It's a goddamn buffet of sci-fi goodness.
All right, so where do we even begin with all this? We got to start somewhere.
Let's talk about Star Trek. The original series, it all started with that show, man. It's the foundation of the entire franchise. And it's not just about the action and adventure. Roddenberry used the show to address some serious social issues, like racism, sexism, and war. He was a sneaky bastard, sneaking in some deep shit under the guise of a space opera.
Yeah, he's a master of disguise. But let's be real, the original Star Trek is pretty dated. The special effects are cheesy as hell and the acting can be a bit stiff.
Yeah, it hasn't aged gracefully in some respects, but there's still something magical about it. The characters are iconic, the stories are classic, and the themes are still relevant today.
All right, I'll give you that Kirk and Spock are legends. But what about the later shows? Did they manage to capture that same magic?
You bet your ass they did. The Next Generation took Star Trek to a whole new level. It had a bigger budget, better special effects, and a more diverse cast. And Picard, man, he's the ultimate captain. He's calm, collected, and always has a plan.
I gotta admit, Picard is a badass. But what about Deep Space Nine? That show was a bit darker and grittier than the others, right?
Yeah. Deep Space Nine was a departure from the traditional Star Trek formula. It was set on a space station instead of a starship, and it dealt with more complex themes like war, religion, and politics. It's not your typical feel-good space adventure.
Sounds a bit heavy for my taste. I prefer my sci-fi with a side of explosions and laser beams.
Well, if you're looking for action, then Voyager is your jam. It's about a starship stranded on the other side of the galaxy trying to get home. They face all sorts of crazy-ass threats and challenges along the way.
Lost in space with no hope of rescue. That's a nightmare scenario.
Exactly. And then there's Enterprise, which is a prequel to the original series. It tells the story of how humanity first ventured into space and formed the United Federation of Planets.
So it's like Star Trek Origins.
Pretty much. But let's be real, Enterprise is kind of the black sheep of the Star Trek family. It's not as well loved as the other shows.
Maybe it's because they mess with the theme song. That original Star Trek theme is a classic, man. You can't beat it.
I hear you. But let's not forget about the newer shows on streaming Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds. They're all adding their own unique chapters to the Star Trek saga. They're pushing boundaries, exploring new ideas, and introducing a whole new generation of fans to the franchise.
Yeah, they're keeping the Star Trek legacy alive. It's impressive how this franchise has managed to stay relevant for so long.
It is. And I think it's because Star Trek is more than just a sci-fi show. It's a reflection of our hopes and fears, our dreams and aspirations. It's a vision of a future where humanity has overcome its differences and is striving for something better.
That's deep, man. I never thought of it that way. But you're right. There's something optimistic and hopeful about Star Trek. It makes you believe that maybe, just maybe, we can create a better future for ourselves.
Exactly. And I think that's why it continues to resonate with audiences today. In a world full of division and conflict, Star Trek offers a vision of unity and cooperation. It's a reminder that we're all in this together, and that we can achieve great things if we work together.
I'm starting to feel all warm and fuzzy inside. This is getting too sentimental for me. Let's talk about some crazy-ass Star Trek moments. What are some of the most memorable episodes or scenes that stick out in your mind?
Man, there's so many. But I think one of the most iconic Star Trek moments has got to be the Kobayashi Maru test from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. It's a Starfleet Academy training exercise designed to test a cadet's character and decision-making skills in a no-win scenario.
A no-win scenario. Sounds like my kind of test.
Well, you're given command of a starship and faced with a distress call from a civilian vessel trapped in Klingon territory. If you try to rescue them, you'll be outnumbered and destroyed. But if you ignore the call, you'll be court-martialed for cowardice. It's a real mindfuck.
So what's the point of this test if you can't win?
The point is to see how you handle pressure and make difficult choices when the odds are stacked against you. It's about character, not about winning or losing.
And how did Kirk beat the test? He seemed like a guy who always found a way to win.
That's the thing. He didn't beat the test in the traditional sense. He reprogrammed the simulation so that it was possible to win. He basically cheated.
What a sneaky bastard. I knew there was a reason I liked that guy.
Well, it showed his ingenuity and his willingness to think outside the box. He wasn't going to let a no-win scenario dictate his actions.
I guess that's one way to look at it. But I bet Starfleet wasn't too happy about him rigging their precious test.
They weren't thrilled, but they had to admire his audacity. And it became a legendary story at the Academy. It's a classic example of Kirk's unconventional approach to problem solving.
All right, that's a good one. What else? Hit me with another mind-blowing Star Trek moment.
Okay, how about the time the Enterprise crew traveled back in time to 1986 San Francisco to save the whales?
Wait, what? Whales? What the hell do whales have to do with space exploration?
It's a long story, but basically in Star Trek IV, the voyage home, an alien probe arrives on Earth and starts transmitting a signal that disrupts all technology. The only way to stop it is to find a humpback whale, which is extinct in the 23rd century.
So they go back in time to grab a whale. That's some seriously fucked up logic.
It is. But it's also a hilarious and heartwarming movie. They steal a Klingon bird of prey, modify it for time travel, and end up in 1980s San Francisco. It's a fish-out-of-water comedy with a message about environmental conservation.
I love it. It's like Star Trek meets Back to the Future.
Exactly. And it's one of the most popular Star Trek movies of all time. It just goes to show that even a ridiculous premise can make for a great story.
Okay, so we've got time travel shenanigans, whales in San Francisco.
Hmm.
Anything else that's going to blow my mind?
How about the Borg?
The Borg. Those are the cybernetic zombie dudes, right?
That's right. They're one of the most terrifying and iconic villains in Star Trek. They're a hive mind of cybernetic organisms that assimilate other species into their collective. They're relentless, unstoppable, and they have a creepy catchphrase. Resistance is futile.
Yeah, that's some scary shit. They're like the ultimate nightmare, a collective consciousness that strips away your individuality.
Exactly. They represent the dangers of conformity, the loss of individuality, and the seductive power of technology. Their first appearance on The Next Generation was a game changer. It introduced a whole new level of threat to the Star Trek universe.
So they're like the ultimate bad guys.
Pretty much. They're a force of nature, a relentless tide that threatens to consume everything in its path.
All right, enough with the Borg. They're giving me the creeps. Let's talk about something a bit more lighthearted. What about some of the funniest Star Trek moments? Surely there's got to be some humor in all this sci-fi seriousness.
Oh, there's plenty of humor in Star Trek, especially in the later series.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, how about the episode of Deep Space Nine where Quark tries to sell self-sealing stem bolts? It's a classic Ferengi scam, Quark. The resident Ferengi bartender on Deep Space Nine invents these useless devices and tries to convince everyone that they're essential for starship maintenance.
Sounds like a used car salesman in space.
Exactly. And the whole episode is full of hilarious misunderstandings and slapstick as Quark tries to peddle his wares. It's a classic example of Star Trek humor.
Love it.
Yeah.
Any other funny episodes that come to mind?
Well, there's the one in Voyager where the doctor, the ship's holographic physician, becomes obsessed with writing a holonovel and starts acting like a pretentious artist.
A holographic doctor writing a novel? That's meta as fuck.
It is. And it's full of great jokes about writer's block, artistic temperament, and the clash between logic and creativity.
All right, I'm sold. I got to check out these episodes. But before we move on, I want to talk about the fans. We touched on the fan productions earlier, but I want to hear more about the Trekkie community in general. What are they like? Are they all just a bunch of awkward nerds?
Man, you couldn't be more wrong. The Star Trek fandom is incredibly diverse. You've got people of all ages, backgrounds, and professions who share a love for this show.
Seriously, I always pictured them as a bunch of guys in Spock ears and Starfleet uniforms.
Sure, you'll find those guys at the conventions, but they're just a small part of the larger Star Trek community. There are doctors, lawyers, scientists, artists, even politicians who are Trekkies.
No shit, I never would have guessed.
And the great thing about the fandom is that it's so welcoming and inclusive. Everyone's there to celebrate their love of Star Trek and share their passion with others.
So it's like a big happy family.
Pretty much. And they're always willing to welcome new members into the fold.
All right. I'm going to have to check out one of these conventions myself.
Yeah.
What goes on at these things anyway? Is it just a bunch of people talking about Star Trek all day?
It's much more than that. You've got panels with actors and writers, screenings of episodes and movies, cosplay contests, art exhibits, vendor booths selling all kinds of Star Trek merchandise, and of course, plenty of opportunities to meet and mingle with fellow Trekkies.
Sounds like a giant Star Trek-themed party.
It is! It's a celebration of all things Star Trek and a chance to immerse yourself in this incredible universe.
I'm sold. You guys are working on my Spock ears right now.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing you at the next convention.
One last thing before we wrap up this section. We talked about Star Trek's influence on technology and science, but what about its impact on society? Did it really make a difference in the real world?
Absolutely. Star Trek has always been a show that promotes diversity, tolerance, and understanding.
I know they had a diverse cast, but did it really have that much of an impact?
You bet. Remember Nichelle Nichols and her work with NASA? She was inspired by her role as Uhura to recruit more women and minorities into the space program. And the show's message of inclusivity has resonated with people all over the world.
So it's like Star Trek gave people a vision of a better future, and then they went out and tried to make it happen.
Exactly. And that's one of the most powerful things about Star Trek. It's not just entertainment. It's a source of inspiration and hope.
Well said. I'm starting to see why this franchise has endured for so long. It's more than just spaceships and aliens. It's about the human spirit and our potential for greatness.
You got it. And that's what makes Star Trek so timeless and relevant even after all these years.
All right, I think we've covered just about everything in this section.
Well, there's a lot more we could discuss, but we'll save that for part 3.
Yeah, we've got to leave some stuff for next time. We'll be back with even more Star Trek madness. But for now, let's take a break and refill our drinks. All right, you beautiful bastards, welcome back to the final frontier of our deep dive into Star Trek.
You're really milking that final frontier thing, aren't you?
Yeah, well, what else am I supposed to say?
I don't get creative.
Fine, fine. We've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still one piece of the puzzle we need to explore.
The juicy details.
You got it.
Lay it on me.
The mind-blowing tech, the awards, the hardcore fandom, all that good shit.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, first up, the tech, Star Trek, is full of this futuristic bullshit that makes you think, damn, I wish I had that.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Like those replicators.
Ah, yes, the replicator.
Imagine getting wasted and just hitting a button for another beer.
You and your goddamn beer think bigger, dude.
What do you mean?
Replicators could solve world hunger, create sustainable resources, revolutionize manufacturing.
Okay, I get it.
It's not just about getting drunk faster.
All right. I'm just saying it'd be pretty damn convenient.
I suppose.
But seriously, that tech is mind-blowing. What about those transporter beams? Imagine skipping traffic and just beaming to work.
Ah, teleportation.
No more commutes, just instant travel.
One of those classic sci-fi concepts that still makes us drool.
But isn't there that whole thing about your molecules getting scrambled during transport?
The transporter dilemma.
That always freaked me out.
Is the person who arrives at the destination really the same person who left?
It's some deep shit, man.
It raises some profound philosophical questions about identity and consciousness.
It also makes me want to stick with my car.
Afraid of a little molecular scrambling.
Screw teleportation.
Yeah.
I'd rather not risk becoming a scrambled mess of molecules.
Suit yourself. But while we're on the topic of mind-blowing tech, we can't forget about the holodeck.
Oh yeah, the holodeck.
That's gotta be the ultimate entertainment system.
Imagine creating any world you can imagine.
Living out your wildest fantasies.
All at your fingertips.
It beats the hell out of VR.
A holodeck. Sign me the fuck up.
It's virtual reality on steroids.
And it's not just about entertainment, right?
Think about the applications for training, education, therapy, even scientific research.
Damn, the possibilities are endless.
Precisely.
All right, you've sold me on the holodeck.
Yeah.
Now, what about medical emergencies? Surely they've got something for that in the Star Trek universe.
Of course. There's the hypospray.
But the what?
The hypospray. It delivers medication instantly and painlessly.
No more needles.
No more pill.
Just a quick shot to the neck and you're good to go.
Exactly.
Shot to the neck. Sounds a bit kinky.
Don't get any ideas.
But I'm down for pain-free healthcare. Okay, you've convinced me Star Trek tech is the shit.
I told you.
But let's move on to the awards. We mentioned earlier that Star Trek has won some serious accolades.
Oh yeah, the award.
What's the scoop on that?
Well, Star Trek has been nominated for a shitload of awards over the years, from Emmys to Hugos to even an Academy Award.
An Oscar. Seriously.
For a sci-fi show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did they win an Oscar for?
They won for Best Makeup and Hairstyling for the 2009 Star Trek movie.
The J.J. Abrams one.
The one and only.
Those alien makeups were pretty damn impressive.
All right.
That's pretty badass. But what about the TV shows? They must have gotten some recognition too.
Of course. The original series was nominated for several Emmys, and The Next Generation won a Peabody Award for the episode The Big Goodbye.
The Peabody.
It shows that Star Trek is more than just entertainment, it's culturally significant.
Damn, Star Trek is a legend.
And don't forget the Peabody Institutional Award they just won this year. It's a testament to the franchise's long-lasting impact on media and society.
All right, before we wrap this up, I gotta ask the big question.
Hit me with it.
Kirk or Picard?
Ah, the age-old debate.
Who's the better captain?
That's like asking Coke or Pepsi, Beatles or Rolling Stones.
So who's your pick? You're the goddamn Star Trek guru here.
Look, Kirk is the classic hero. Impulsive, charismatic, a bit of a rogue, but always gets the job done.
Yeah, he's a badass. I kind of see myself in him.
Whereas Picard is more cerebral and diplomatic. He's a strategist, a philosopher, a master of diplomacy.
So Kirk is the heart and Picard is the brain.
Something like that. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. It really depends on the situation.
All right, I'm going to cop out and say they're both awesome in their own way.
Fair enough. It's a debate that will probably rage on for as long as Star Trek exists.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the Star Trek universe. We've explored the origins of the show, the different series and movies, the crazy tech, the awards, the fandom, and even debated the merits of Kirk versus Picard.
We've boldly gone where no podcast has gone before.
And hopefully we've entertained and enlightened you along the way.
Live long and prosper, you magnificent bastards.
And don't forget to check out our next episode where we'll be dissecting another topic with our unique blend of humor and insight. Until then, peace out.